Did you know that the American Red Cross Clubmobiles, affectionately known as Clubmobile Girls, were an integral part of World War II history? Before reading Jane Healy's book, The Beantown Girls, I didn't know anything about them. I picked out this book because one, the cover, two, it's a World War II history romance novel, which of course is all me. Three, the narrator is Sarah Mollo-Christensen and she's amazing. And that cover exudes friendship, love, and just hope, everything that I want in my historical fiction. Once I started listening to this story, it didn't take me long to become fully invested and enchanted with their story of love, loss, and friendship. That wasn't the case in the beginning though. In the opening chapter, we learn that Fiona and her friends will be joining the American Red Cross Clubmobiles to distribute coffee and donuts to soldiers overseas on Clubmobiles as a way of contributing to the war effort. And I'm ashamed to say this, but in the beginning I thought, really? That's all? I thought women could do more at the time. Boy, was I wrong. Hi everyone, I'm Gonzalez-Gibson with Kaleidoscopes and Polka Dots, where I sell handmade, vintage-inspired jewelry for the soul that's in love with the past, wholeheartedly lives in the present, and embraces the future. If you enjoy exploring creativity through jewelry, vintage fashion, history, and books, then please be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you never miss an episode. So, heroes come in all forms, shapes, and sizes. That was the mantra that I used to live by basically when I was a part of the US Army Reserves. So why was I being so hard on these women who willingly, excitedly joined this organization to support the cause? Because I, in my total ignorance, thought that they would be serving as distractions more than as a supportive element. I am so mad at myself, but hey, I didn't know any better, and now I do. So let's talk briefly about the story. The Beantown Girls by Jane Healy is the story of three friends, Fiona, Dottie, and Viv, or Viviana. They joined the American Red Cross Clubmobiles after watching a piece of propaganda when they went to see a movie. Prior to joining the American Red Cross Clubmobiles, they were all working women. Dottie was a music teacher. She is smart, shy, and of course musically inclined. Viv was in marketing and advertising, and she is smart, sassy, gorgeous, and adventurous. Fiona is our main character. She is, or was, a administrative assistant to the mayor's office. And she is smart, grounded, and probably the strongest of the three. So the motivation behind why Fiona wants to join the American Red Cross Clubmobiles is that her fiance went MIA on October of 1942. The previous year. No, that would have been 1943. And she feels helpless, and no matter how much she volunteers locally, she just never feels like she's doing enough. So this is her way to go overseas and be more present and proactive in learning more about his disappearance, or maybe even locating him. That is the goal. Throughout the story, we meet so many colorful characters. They're both civilians and GIs. It is truly a vivid and wonderful story if you have a chance to listen or read for yourself. We're also provided with so many pop culture references at the time, which I adored and devoured. We're introduced to Glenn Miller, who has now become one of my personal favorites of all time. And then we also experience so many magical moments where kindness is exhibited by both sides. There's a scene where the girls find themselves in quite a serious situation in the middle of the woods, and they stumble upon a cottage. And in this cottage reside a woman and her son, and they're also housing German soldiers. It's around December, and she insists that everybody for that evening disarm and enjoy a nice holiday meal. It was incredibly moving and thoughtful and touching. I'm getting choked up. By the end of Jane Healy's novel, of these three brilliant women who excitedly joined the American Red Cross Clubmobiles to distribute coffee and donuts to soldiers close to the front lines, I was totally ashamed of myself for ever considering their efforts less than. By the way, the narrator, Sarah Mollo-Christensen, is amazing. 5 out of 5 for both story and narration. If you don't have time, go with the audiobook. So who is this book for? This book is perfect for the reader who's looking for a historical romance novel filled with historical facts and pop culture references. It's for the reader who wants a story about friendship, love, and loss. However, it is not for the reader who is looking for a hard-hitting historical romance novel. No, you're not gonna get your heart shattered into smithereens. And it's also not for the reader who's looking for a fun, smutty read. It's just not there. This book tells the story of 3 friends through the lens of love, grace, and valor. It is sweet and thoughtful, and in my humble opinion, has the potential of becoming a Hallmark movie Hall of Fame contender. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Let's talk more about the American Red Cross Clubmobiles, or the Clubmobile Girls. By the way, if you have a chance to attend one of Jane Healy's webinars about the Beantown Girls, I would highly recommend it. Her webinar doesn't just cover the process of how she came about to the Beantown Girls, it covers a lot of historical tidbits. And she shows so many beautiful vintage photographs that are also very personal to her. So if you're interested in more of that, join her mailing list. I'll have it linked in the description box as well. Her website, that is. Today I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of the history of the Clubmobile Girls. The American Red Cross Clubmobiles were conceived by Harvey D. Gibson in 1942. At the time, he was appointed the commissioner of the ARC in Great Britain. His idea was to provide soldiers on the front lines with a little taste of home via creature comforts such as donuts, coffee, treats, and cigarettes. These were all to be distributed for free by True American Girls, which for soldiers were a welcome distraction and offered them an opportunity to reminisce about their home in familiar idioms. The requirements to become an American Red Cross Clubmobile Girl were to be college educated, 25 years of age, single, and outgoing. These women saw this as an opportunity to give back in ways they otherwise couldn't at the time. As told through this story and through various different articles that I've read, there was an emphasis placed on not burdening the soldiers with their own sob stories. They were there to increase morale. They were there to serve as a distraction through light banter and flirtation, as well as through donuts and coffee. Inevitably, Clubmobile Girls developed close connections with soldiers. This connection prompted soldiers to open up about the horrors they'd endured and in many cases open up in ways they otherwise couldn't to their loved ones. While conversations could often become serious, Clubmobile Girls were often greeted with catcalls to which they were encouraged to retort with humor and ease. I came upon a story of a real live Clubmobile Girl. Her name was Elizabeth A. Richardson, and the article's name is Wearing Lipstick to War, an American Woman in World War II, England and France. So Elizabeth joined it in 1944, and of the attention they received from GIs, she wrote home, "You feel sort of like a museum piece. Hey look fellas, a real live American girl. If you have a club foot, buck teeth, crossed eyes, and a cleft palate, you can still be Miss Popularity. The main thing is that you're female and speak English." In the same article, Clubmobiler Eleanor Stevenson recounts that they'd yell out to a truckload of GIs, "Hey soldier, what's cookin'?" And the guys would yell back, "Chicken, want a nut?" These interactions were memorable to all. It wasn't just about distributing coffee and donuts and treats. It was about creating an atmosphere of ease and levity that otherwise wasn't present during these tumultuous times. From France in spring of 1945, Liz wrote home saying to her parents, "We were cruising past some resting troops, so when we heard them shouting, 'Hey Liz! Hey Milwaukee!' It was a whole unit that we had known it in England, and we had a wonderful reunion right there on the road. And yesterday, I met one of the cooks who had helped us brew our coffee during the week of the invasion of Holland. It's funny how they remember you, and stranger yet how we remember them after seeing thousands and thousands of faces." I'll leave a link to this article in the description box. Obviously, no, these women did not contribute to the war efforts with arms in hand. but they did get really close to the front lines. That was their duty. And they did so with grace and valor. Light fun and humor is incredibly important to the human experience. It reduces stress, it helps you think clearer, it improves communication and relationships with others. These women provided that sense of relief and moral support that soldiers couldn't get through interacting with each other or with their family members via letters. These women were incredibly supportive and important to the cause. And that is why I was so wrong in my presumption that they would be more distracting than they would be helpful in the war effort. Had you ever heard of the American Red Cross Clubmobiles prior to this video? Or am I alone here? Because that could be totally the case. In 2019, I introduced the Noir collection to my shop. While it is titled the Noir collection and named after a lot of very cool ladies, I was largely inspired by the Beantown Girls. I envisioned a lot of my pieces being easily swapped out amongst girls who were in the war effort because, well, back then a lot of ladies did not have a lot of jewelry, or they didn't have the means to have a lot of fancy items. So they would lend each other their pieces, which is just so beautiful. If you're interested in any of the pieces, I highly encourage you to sign up to the Kaleidoscope Chronicle, my newsletter. You'll get a 20% off discount code right off the bat, but if you stick around, you are also able to save a little more because, well, I'm in the know. Why would this make for a great Hallmark book to movie adaptation? Because it's so thoughtful and sweet. It's everything that Hallmark wants to be, and so much more. And Hallmark, if you're listening, I have a few people in mind for these girls. For Fiona, Erin Krakow. For Dottie, Lacey Chaber would be perfect. And for Viv, or Viviana, Autumn Reeser. By the way, all of these opinions are my own. I'm not working with anybody. This is all just me wanting to put it out there. That I hope this becomes a film, and that I would love Hallmark to make a beautiful classic out of this book because it deserves a place on film. That is it for me today. A link to all of my resources will be in the description box. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you again very soon. Bye. And please hit that like button and that subscribe button and that notification bell. Again, there is something on my glasses. How do I do that to myself? It's my mascara. So let's not put them on too closely toward our eyes. Oh, again.